peasant insurrection. The provos began attacking the state, the media, the law, and the sickening middle classes through their ludicrous and light-hearted pranks. But all of that would change when the movement eventually tapped in to some of the darker elements of the zeitgeist, when they unleashed the pent-up rage of the mid-1960s working class.
Amsterdam has the look of a beleaguered city. Fear, tension, and violence are all part of the aftermath of a labor dispute between union and non-union construction workers. A wave of street rioting breaks out on the day following a night demonstration during which one worker dies. More than 1,500 policemen, including 650 members of the elite semi-military Royal Constabulary, charged the rioters.
Evie
Workers
Brownberg,
were
have you
joined by
been busy on
hoodlums
this
who
all this
battled
time?
police through the downtown area,
You were just too
hurling
busy to
stones,
talk to me.
smashing shop windows and parking meters.
I was locked in
Up
this
until
guy's
now, the
basement.
Provos had preached that their revolution must
private
only
place.
occur through peaceful means, because by using playful and irrational tactics to embarrass the state and the law, these institutions would see no alternative than to unleash the violence which is inherent to the system. The Provos were anarchists, which means that they were basically opposed to all hierarchical power systems, and their campaign was mainly focused on two figures whom they had branded enemies of the revolution and the people. Mayor Van Gaal, the mayor of Amsterdam, a position with decentralized power from the Dutch government, and the police chief commissioner Van der Molen, who they thought responsible for the endless arrests, baton charges, and many a cracked skull, all which will feature heavily in this episode.
De politie is mijn beste kameraad. De politie weet op alle dingen raad.
Als je hond is weggelopen of je bent iets anders kwijt, de politie gaat dat zoeken en die vindt het haast altijd.
The final showdown of the Provos awaits. So let's get into it. There goes the neighborhood, here come the Provos. Working for the man is a no-no. Staying on the low-low, playing with the po-po. When you're with the crew, you're never gonna roll solo. There goes the neighborhood, here come the Provos. Trying to give the world back its mojo. The people with no home need to go loco. Here come the Provos to fuck up the whole show.
This is a Provo thing.
It's a little ironic that the biggest battle of the Provo saga, the showdown against Mayor Van Gaal, the face of grey bureaucracy, and Commissioner Van der Molen, the face of police brutality, and the Telegraph, the right-wing mainstream media, was not initiated by the Provos, who had been dubbed the loafing class, but by the blue-collar workers of the city. And that battle took place on the 14th of June, 1966.
Good God. Birthday present for Che Guevara.
You won't get me, I'm a part of the union. Won't get me, I'm a part of the union. Packing the streets and attacking the beast, getting back on my feet, I'm a part of the union. You can't get me, I'm a part of the union. Can't get me, I'm a part of the union. Please don't start lighting the spark on my hand, on my heart, I'm a part of the union. So let's get some set pieces here into perspective. The Telegraph was seen as the enemy of Provo, not just because of their negative reporting of the group or their support of the police brutality used against the Provos, but also because of their right-wing political leanings, which is, fair enough. And it was this building right here, on a street heaving with different press companies, is where the original Telegraph newspaper was based. And this is where the news of Amsterdam originated from. This whole street here, it's where all the companies were. This is where the opinions of regular Joe public were formulated and disseminated. This is also the main reason why the witch doctor, Robert Jasper Grootveld, had started his happenings at the Spouw, basically just down at the end of the street here. It was so his direct actions and ludicrous behaviour could be close to the centres of information and publicity.
On the original video, it's not running slow like this. My phone is cooked.
But on June 14th, 1966, the reporters didn't have to venture too far to get their stories because the news came to them when this whole area became a battleground of the biggest riots of the 1960s, the entire Provo era.
The violence continues with the indiscriminate destruction of property and a continuous bombardment of the police as the hoodlums throw paving stones ripped from the street. Women are involved in the melee, and police estimate the rioters number 5,000.
In the days leading up to the riots, the city had been in a tense state of siege, with demonstrations banned and repression against the Provos in full swing. They had brought the city to the brink of civil war, which was a pretty wild situation for a group of jokers that had been handing out dried raisins and free bicycles and dancing around the statue on a Saturday night. Amsterdam was a tinderbox, and all it would take was a single spark to set it off. And the fire was mainly going to be concentrated right here. That spark came in the form of a 2% wage cut for the construction workers of the city, 70% of whom were communists. And if there's one thing communists don't like, it's getting a pay cut from some jumped-up office cunt in an ill-fitting suit. Then, like now, the forces of capitalism will do everything in its power to crush the workers and squeeze every last drop of juice from the fruit of your labour, discarding your carcass when they've devoured your fleshy innards. Yup. And it all started here, on Marnixstraat. On the evening of June 13th, this is pretty much where the revolution, the riots began. So right here, there was basically 700 furious construction workers who had gathered at the St. Elizabeth Patronat for a meeting with the labour authorities in this little building here. Somehow the meeting inside had broke out into fights amongst the furious workers who were protesting their wage theft, and the violence and confusion spilled out into the streets.
Oh, did you see that dragon? Look at that stuff.
Panic and rage spreads quickly amongst crowds, and the police that were tasked with the holy responsibility of keeping the traffic flowing had to call in reinforcements. When the riot police arrived here at the scene, they did what they were trained to do, and the opening salvos of baton charges commenced. Much like anarchists, the communist workers inside generally disliked getting their jaws smashed in by the authorities, and right here, a great battle began. In amongst the tussles, suddenly
I should try clip.
51-year-old bricklayer
I've got
Jan
some kind of
Vegelar
clip
lay
something.
unconscious on the street. Workers said
Oh,
he was
dear.
cracked in the crown with a state-sanctioned baton. The police said he just fell. Either way, he was
DMT.
taken away in an ambulance and was pronounced dead in the hospital. Whether he died from a heart attack or at the hands of the police remains a matter of contention to this day, but his death lit the sparks of revolution, and now there was no turning back. Later that night, his death was officially announced, and a howling fury spread throughout the city. The workers believed that he had died at the hands of the state, and that his death was being downplayed. The typewriters at the Telegraph pounded throughout the small hours of the night for the morning editions, and the papers, hot off the press, were about to cause a hot mess. The Amsterdam edition ran the story that Jan had died of a heart attack, and the National edition reported that he had died when he got struck by a brick thrown by a protester. When the workers read the bull in this rag, it was like a red rag to a bull, and all the pent-up fury of the proletariat was concentrated at the source of the lies, the Telegraph building. Months of tension in the city was primed to erupt. The Provos had pushed the authorities to their limits, and the resulting repression had now spilled over into general society. And it was now the communist working class who struck back. At 9 a.m. on the 14th, a crowd of 5,000 gathered here at the dock worker statue. Across the city, in the city hall, Mayor Van Hal and the police commissioner Van der Molen, the two men who the provost had designated their #1 enemies, were having a meeting to discuss the events. They had somewhat naively expected the people to just accept the cause of Jan, but it turned out to be yet another occasion in which they had failed to read the room. At the dock worker statue right here, the workers raised the rally cry to the telegraph. No police were in sight when the crowd marched from here across town and reached the building. And then the shenanigans began. The siege began and the telegraph was ransacked.
66.
Windows were broken and delivery trucks overturned, stuffed with newspapers and set alight. The editor inside the building desperately rang for some assistance, but Mayor Van Hal and Commissioner Van der Molen were paralyzed with indecision, dumbfounded that they had let the situation get this far.
THE
Amsterdam
multi-programming
was in
thing was
revolt.
58.
You won't get me, I'm a part
I
of the
can't
union.
remember.
Won't get me, I'm a part of the union. Packing the streets and attacking the beast, getting back on my feet, I'm a part of the union. You can't get me, I'm a part of the union. Can't get me, I'm a part of the union. Please don't start lighting the spark on my hand, on my heart, I'm a part of the union. I was at home on the couch, I was watching Scooby-Doo when I got a call from the boys in the hall. They told me it all said it's gonna be a brawl with the union crew. You know what I do, stuck on my socks and my steel-toe shoes. If the fella in the office wanna mess with my pay, then it's definitely gonna be a hectic day. I got on my way. If there's a ruckus, I'm up at the front if you're cutting my wage. 2% is too much, you fucking cunts. An injury to one's an injury to all. If you stick your paw inside my pocket, you will be getting a kick in the ball. You won't get me, I'm a part of the union. Won't get me, I'm a part of the union. Packing the streets and attacking the beast, getting back on my feet, I'm a part of the union. You can't get me, I'm a part of the union. Can't get me, I'm a part of the union. Please don't start lighting the spark on my hand, on my heart, I'm a part of the union. By the time the riot squads had arrived, the riots had spread from here up to the dam rack, and the numbers of protesters had been swelled by nosems, provosts, and every frustrated citizen of Amsterdam. Horse-mounted police trampled protesters, batons swung freely, itchy trigger fingers squeezed, and lead joined the airborne chorus of cobblestones and bottles. The white carpet was rolled out as a giant blank newspaper roll was unfurled down the dam rack before being set alight, never to have ink stain it with lies. The running battles continued long into the night and basically into the coming days, with miniature uprisings exploding and retreating throughout the city all week.
These are the worst street riots Amsterdam has seen since the end of World War II. Ironically, they occurred during the annual Holland Festival. The full-scale riots erupted after workers charged police brutality was responsible for a worker's death. Amsterdam, a troubled capital.
It's difficult to put an end point on the riots, as the following months unravelled. Marches,
The style of reporting has definitely changed from the 60s to now, hasn't it? I think we've made progress.
To the surface in an explosion of violent frustration, and it was Provo, the spark that lit the fuse on this tinderbox, and it was completely lost in the chaos. They had originally preached non-violence, but those days were over. The movement was built on ridiculing the system and rallying the proletariat to morph into the provotariat. The members continued their dada hijinks and pranks, but the city had changed. New battle lines were drawn, and it was clear that a new era had descended through the 60s onto Amsterdam. Provo had to die for their ideals to live on. And next week, in the final episode, we'll attend the funeral of Provo.
I was completely wrong. I was completely wrong about the guilt being something that causes ad hoc. associations. She meant something else that Americans were good at. I obviously never got it. I would have thought it was communications. Underground things like the Ant Farm Collective and Radio Alice and stuff like that. That's good. That's how you shift the orbit of a solar system from one planet to another. There's an idea there, I'm sure. The Red Light District is his flagship video. I haven't watched it yet. I'm afraid I'll fall in love again. Something's come up.